Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. 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 I could have kept going, man.
Was you getting out there?
I was getting out there.
You know, man, when you was doing that, I was thinking.
After the third one or something, I was like,
wow.
oh my God, I could feel it so much.
When you was doing your chant, it made me think of the many possibilities one could encounter when doing them. You know, there's been experiences of people like you yourself burst out laughing, maybe bring you to tears, maybe just like you fucking took a salvia trip. I don't like that's. I agree though. I've been doing a little more of it, and I have mentioned this, but it's worth mentioning again. I done a chant.
Yeah.
I was in that Eastern mystic mood. I just listened to the Lotus Sutra.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what it's called?
Sutra. Yep.
Oh, and I was already in that mood. It's like I got so much in that state that listening to like normal music became very strange.
Yeah, I didn't have the appeal as much. Yeah.
But man, I got so out there, man, that after I went a little bit longer though, but because I started off just doing it for the gags, thinking it probably, but you get the right mindset going into that. It will make you.
I remember the first time it was so weird how I discovered the Hare Krishna chant. And dude, I'm telling you, man, a couple years ago, you bring up the Hare Krishna chant to me, and I'd say, get that bullshit out of my face. I swear to God. Like, I mean, maybe not to that. I might not have said that, but
I didn't even know about it back then.
I was more hostile towards that type of thing. I didn't really get it yet.
Yeah, I understand. You know? Everything's got its time. Definitely. When you're going to resonate
and
with
dude,
it.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that Hinduism is the one true religion. I'm not saying that paganism is the one true
we can extract a lot of things from both.
And look, man, but this is the thing too. I don't rule out the possibility. I will say, out of all the religions I've studied, Hinduism to me makes the most sense in terms of its cosmology. When I read things like the Lima coincides with a lot of what Hinduism has to say.
And you got to think too, Crawley, he went to India. He was very fascinated with Buddha.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt.
No, please interrupt as much as you want.
Crawley practiced, yogi and stuff, yoga, and but the only thing about the Hindus is they didn't really practice magic. I mean, they practiced chants and connecting with the divine. Which
technically is a form, but not the kind of magic.
But they weren't using. See, what I like to think is, okay, I have this ancient wisdom at my fingertips with these old Bhagavad Gita and these books and these resources, and when I read them, it just illuminates me. And when I read the Bhagavad Gita, dude,
it's so inspiring,
Cameron. To be honest, man, that book has really done more than anything to me. Yeah. I mean, not more than anything, but it's really effective. It's really, I genuinely tell you that it's affected me big time. Yeah. And it's so beautiful because this is what it says, dude. This is what Krishna says. You know what Krishna says? He says, if you represent my existence in a different form, that's fine. I will recognize you. That's how I like to think. I like to think that no matter what kind of deity you make up, Krishna will recognize that. Or divinity, intelligence, the divine intelligence will recognize that. And this is what Krishna said. He said, the most enlightened will know that this is my true form. But, for other people that are trying to connect with the divine, I will honor them. I will connect with them.
What other religion talks about that kind of level?
I'm the only true God. Anybody that don't believe in me is going to hell, motherfucker.
And obviously, going back to that being the oldest religion. Am I right on that?
Yeah, it's the oldest recorded religion. Now there were like pastoral religions when we were still like monkeys.
I know people talked about the god of the stars, the god of the moon, the god of the
Yeah,
sun.
well, yeah, I could imagine that, that Hinduism is way older than Christianity.
Mm.
Like the Bhagavad Gita is about 5,000 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Now, like Christ was around, 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And the Old Testament probably happened 1,000 years before that.
Ain't it crazy that was just 2,000 years ago?
I know.
That's not long.
I know. That was right when Christ came, dude. That was the shift into the male-dominated culture.
Yeah.
Before that, McKenna talks about this. McKenna talks about when you observe these ancient cave art, there's this one of this shaman, and he has mushrooms growing out of him. It's like fucking 6,000 years old. It's fucking insanely old. And it's this rock painting or rock drawing, and it's this shaman, and he's all electrified, and he has a bee mask on. A bee mask on, and he has like wings and his mushrooms going on. An obvious depiction of a shaman under the influence of the sacred mushroom.
Yeah, that's so inspiring.
Like I said before, religion in its earliest form was getting blasted on plants. I mean, that was our first introduction. I mean, dude. Why should we be worthy? This is the thing that gets me, okay? People say this all the time, Can I achieve these states of consciousness on the natch? Can I do it without drugs? Why should you?
Who do you think you are?
Exactly.
I looking back, just even before Kratom Cannabis Kava, it's like, who am I to just with only my judgment to say this is so?
Yeah.
Without the higher power of these plants.
Dude, when
directing your every movement.
Absolutely.
They do.
They
change you. Oh God,
that
so
Van
much.
Morrison song, he says, no teacher, no guru, just me and you in the garden.
Wow.
That's the way to go.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I think these plants are
I didn't know that.
are our purest teachers,
Yeah.
And those ancient mushroom drawings in caves, man. And
you have to show me some of those later. But I didn't hear. I've seen
you
similar paintings, but they was by more modern.
Yeah.
artists.
So, but Kenna talks about this pastoral religion. So there's evidence of really ancient cattle worship. Okay. Cattle worship. This was
out there stuff.
This was a goddess religion. Okay. They worshipped the goddess. And when we was, a little more primitive than we are now, a lot more primitive than we are now.
Well, anyways,
when we were like more monkey-like is what I mean.
Okay.
And we were in Africa and we're traveling. Okay, so, the African rainforest started to recede. Okay, us monkeys, our ancestors, they were hanging out on trees, and chilling there, and then all of a
Better than
sudden,
some of the shit you see now.
all of a sudden, the ecosystem started to change. The Earth started going through a natural change, and the rainforest started.
Kind of like we are,
Yeah. Which I mean, some of ours is natural and unnatural, but
yeah.
And the rainforest started to recede, so that meant that we had to get out of the trees and start looking for food. And if you observe monkeys, I mean, even right now, they're always flipping over cow patties.
Yeah.
That's one thing that they do.
Yeah.
And we were probably no different way back then.
Sure.
And we all know that cow patties are the preferred substrate for Psilocybe cubensis mushrooms. So we would have very likely encountered them.
Yeah.
Now, if we did encounter them, there'd be a couple important things that would contribute to our evolution. Think about it. What happened to us? What happened to humans? We are a species with amnesia. We've forgotten where we came from, and we're so fucked up, and we're looking for anything, drugs, religions. You know what we're looking for? Do you know what we're looking for? We're looking for the perfect high. And that's not limited to just substances. People are looking for the perfect high through sex, through ruinous orgies and coke benders, and or an ascetic religion so that they feel like they're, really, sealing themselves off.
And it could be very unsettling really looking at this stuff yourself, extracting many different things, because it's much easier and you don't have to temporarily feel that your spirit is doomed after your demise.
Right.
And if you just pick a religion and just tell yourself, blind yourself, stay in the darkness. This is the way it is. There's a philosopher that talked about this. The people who live in ignorance, aka the masses,
the sheep
are the happiest people.
Yeah.
Because they don't know no better.
They don't know no better.
But the man who is on the road to really trying to become enlightening, he's going to have a period of time.
A very hard time.
It's going to be stressful. It's going to be confusion.
But
that's a phase, and you will get through it.
Totally true.
And then you will be looking at a completely different angle.
Yeah, man. I mean, I went through a phase, about 2 years ago. Was that how long? About a year or two ago, probably about 2 years ago. That I got really, really bad off.
Yes.
Was
that 1 or 2?
I don't really.
That was
remember.
2 years.
Might have been 2 years. It was around October. This was around the time when Gaza had started to bomb Israel. And I'm not no fucking Israel fan, but I wasn't a big fan of seeing women chained with blood coming out of their pussies and asses, and children getting their heads beheaded. That stuff really affected me back then when I saw this stuff. And dude, the grief that I felt when I saw that stuff. And dude, like I said, it's not just fucking Israel.
Yeah.
They're a corrupt nation too. But no one deserves that.
Oh, God,
Neither did the Gazan citizens deserve the fucking hellfire that they brought down upon them. It's a terrible.
This has been overwhelming.
Affected my heart so bad. And it was during this time that I went through this real bad existential crisis, dude. And I remember it got so bad to where I would be walking into work and all the cars and the fucking exhaust going up.
Dark place.
It made me I was in this just hell realm, dude. And I started thinking oh my God, what would I do just to be like one of these fucking people that I work with who just, they're just so absorbed into this. They think it's normal.
So
but once you see that
living in the illusion that it's the reality, but when you realize it's the illusion, you have a moment of spiral. It's spiral gets out of control.
Once you reach the point in your, if you want to call it spiritual development, and you see that toxifying the planet and toxifying our bodies is never going to be good, is only going to lead to ruin, and you see that it's trending worse and worse,
man,
you get really down. So it becomes more important for you to have practices to surround your aura with divinity, get as close to divinity as you can, because this world is a fucking
man,
realm in a way.
I want to talk to you about an experience that I had the other day, because it's kind of along these lines a little bit. And I can see where the Buddha was coming from when he said he would walk in the villages, look upon every man, and they're each tied. They've got something sometimes similar, sometimes different from the other people, just pulling them down, and just misery and grief wherever he looked. He just smiled upon them.
You know what that smile is called? It's called the smile of infinite compassion. That's what the Buddha is, how he smiled.
And I'm going to tell you something, man. I had this thought. We can call them a little bit of intrusive thoughts. But the darkness, the true darkness that's in the world, it's hard. And when I think about these,
nobody wants to deal with it.
I truly mean it. It kills me to such a point. I know you're saying, wow, there's a lot of people that seem to look at it as a sort of entertainment. Most people are so selfish. As long as their little life is just good.
Go ahead, man.
I just want to say, oh God, I had the thought the other day, it was so real, about these people who have been the victim of rape. And brother, I went down a dark road. I might have spent a half hour trying to get myself back out of that, man. I didn't get a chance to even talk to you about this yet. And I started thinking how, oh God, horribly, horribly unfair this is. And you know, I started thinking, especially the ones that's really young, all of them though, you know, they may escape this completely insane, low conscious person that, speaking of hell realms, will have that waiting upon them for sure. These things, as we talked about, karma is a very real thing, and you know the evidence of people living in them, even though it may be for now consciousness.
Yes, sir.
But going back to that, I started really, oh God, feeling such grief. And I said, those people, what if they one day find a husband, for example, who really loves them so much? How would that severely affect their sex life, for example? They never got to experience the true
loving,
like what sex really is, because you have this garbage, low consciousness, demented person
who has not found it, who has not been able to open his heart to love.
I came to this conclusion. I'm not one of those people that say, oh, he does this, I don't want to talk, don't look at me, you're evil, he does this. Look, when it comes down to it, the only lines that really we draw is that, like rape, like fucking pedophiles, and you know, got those things, man. That's the lowest you can really get on this level, and the stuff that's been happening, and that you see, it's been done on both sides. Not to get into, because we don't really keep up with this war so much. It seems that the news, they really thrive in putting this stuff out. They they really get off on this. Look,
this is a good thing to talk about.
I want to talk about, and he got to even a more severe situation than me, but I was in a really bad situation a been a long time ago, actually, 8 years ago. The truck that I was driving to work, something went wrong. It caught on fire, and I'm panicking, man. And to make a long story short, the truck burned down. But a lot of people passed by. I swear to you, they had a smile from fucking ear to ear. And you know what somebody told me?
What's that?
The truth of this matter is, I have gave somebody something interesting to talk about during their lunch and breakfast. That, if you see yourself in that direction, we have the power to change it.
Yes.
Look, we need to stop laughing and talking about other people's misery, whether it's, you know, more of the smaller stuff. We have to constantly do everything in our power to give somebody a good word, lift them up, show people true love. There's a lot of people that hasn't experienced that true love.
That is so sad too, man. There genuinely is people that just had a, you know, man, I mean, we all come into this world with a unique set of circumstances. And, you know, like what you was thinking about the other day about rape and rape victims. It gets me too, man. I think about those things all the time, and war, and it hurts me so bad because, and this is the thing that's so selfish, you know, the people out there that think, you know, I can just plumage my children's future and they'll be dead and that'll be their problem. Well, you know what? You don't really know how this reality is. It very well may be that you might be incarnated in the future and have to deal with that. You know, about karma and stuff. You know, to me, you know, there does seem to be a kind of metaphysical law. You know that when you treat people badly, people's not going to want to treat you good, and not only that, but you know, I like to think that in this metaphysical law, you know, I really think that you know, we come into each life with a certain amount of karma that we're and karma is your patterns, you know, and your hang-ups, and you might have had these hang-ups for 1,000 lifetimes. You know, and just keep round the wheel of suffering.
You pass away and you're here again, and you fall for the same traps over and over and over.
So awakening is realizing, oh shit.
Yeah.
This isn't all there is.
Oh God,
Wait,
listen.
you mean to tell me that
It's deep.
you mean
Oh,
to tell
God,
me
it's-
that my eyes and my ears and my touch and my smell, that's not all there is? There's you mean to tell me that that's just a little small, slice of the scale of experiences? Now take 5 grams of psilocybin, see what kinds of things that you perceive.
You should tell the possible person watching this video later about the great quote by the amazing Terrence McKenna.
About psychedelics?
Yes.
The one I sent you?
Yes, sir.
Yep. He said psychedelics are not illegal because our government cares at all that you're going to jump out of a 3rd-story window, but they are illegal because they dissolve cultural standards. They dissolve. They show you that everything you knew was wrong. That's really the scariest thing about psychedelics is when you take that experience, you realize that whatever your little system is for thinking is ultimately insufficient. The truth is so mind-boggling. It's when I've gotten really out there 5 to 10 grams of mushrooms, I had an experience where I felt infinity for the first time. And I don't really know how else to say that, but I experienced infinity. And for the first time in my life, I considered that perhaps I am the infinite, experiencing itself
Deep
in
stuff,
this
man.
way.
Oh, deep stuff. That's beautiful said, man. You know what, man?
And if you have that experience, how are you going to treat somebody bad?
Yeah.
That's
exactly.
you.
Exactly. You're slapping yourself in the face.
Yep.
You know what, man? Yep, that's why you can't praise these teacher plants enough for providing the truths that we so desperately need to see. And going back to, actual love, we can't stress enough being the consciousness. That is where that's God.
Yes.
That's the truth.
Yeah, I said this in a YouTube comment the other day. I said, I forget, somebody commented something, I replied. I said something to the effect of, the more we expand our consciousness, we reach ever towards love.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, man. You know what? I feel bad. And look, I want to put this out because possibly, well, we know for a fact by doing so, we send these waves coming from our voices, going through the worlds, the universes, through the cosmos, and it will change things. We put the power out. It's another form of magic.
Oh yeah.
And I want to say that man, and I'm talking the gender of man, has failed a lot throughout the years. And as a man, I see that through other men's actions, we have lost a lot of the trust and the love from women.
Yes.
We have these women communities this day and time marching, saying they hate
all
men. And that's very unfair for people like
unfair.
us because I truly we hate this masculine look on things. We are the most feminist.
Why do we hate it though? We hate it because this is the way that culture has been ran for the past 2,000 years, and we've made a fucking mess out of everything.
There may be
male-dominated culture.
So many women throughout history who has been raped by a man, assumes every man's this aggressive piece of shit, using a woman as a masturbator. That's the truth, because they're low fucking consciousness pieces of shit. That look, this is.
But they'll feel bad about masturbating.
Oh yeah, exactly. But it's a woman, That's goes back to what LaVey talks about. We won't get into that right now. But what I'm trying to say is, us consciously putting out the change of that being different, turning this male and female different, like I'm this, I don't want to be this or be this. It's all getting hung up on this illusion to begin with. It's something of the mind. There's no gender when we pass in to the other side. Like, what the fuck does that mean?
That's just gender.
We're already the same, this temporarily 3D place.
So, women, what have I told you about these plants?
Plant wifeys.
I mean, all the plants that I take, they have a feminine aspect to that. I really do think that the plant life is really that's the goddess,
Yeah.
you know, in the 3D protruding in the 3D dimension, and the plants are what's running the show. Believe it or not,
We've had these discussions
plants
before.
cultivate us. We gotta understand that.
Yeah, and you know what? To add to that, we've had conversations on these plants, and we sit down. It's much like a disciple of Anton LaVey came forth and said, "Oh, evil. You turn that around backwards. It's live. It's almost as if we talked about. Look, and there's been some greats discuss this over the years. Oh, wait. Okay, so a woman doesn't actually come from a man. You know, man was the dominant. He was first. The woman is his sidekick, his helper. But man is extracted from woman.
Okay, so this is the idea. I want to slice into a couple things here.
Go whatever you feel to, my good man.
You know, one of the biggest failures of monotheism is the leaving out the goddess. You know, and look at you know, at two main monotheistic religions, Islam and Christianity. They're both male, you know, male religions. Now compare that to the cattle and goddess worshipping religion, or other pagan religions that had, you know, aspects of both. You know, it's really crazy that it's so unbalanced. It's you know, monotheism is a very unbalanced cosmology.
Yeah.
It's a very unbalanced way to think about the universe. You see, but women have, McKenna talked about this. Women have always been more close to the mystery, you know, because they have children, which is a insane mystery. You know, back in the day, you know, women would help women give birth. You know, the guy would usually just walk away. You know, he didn't want to deal with that. You know, so a man is really more likely to be deluded. And if you look at the hunter gathering cultures, you know, women were the gatherers. And gathering is a very highly conscious activity. You know, the plant with 3 leaves and this certain flower, if you take the root and you ground it up, it can help with this sickness. It's a very conscious thing, you know, whereas men would just go hunt to get out of the women's hair.
You know what? When it comes
psychedelic consciousness is a feminine state of consciousness.
When it comes to these plants, you know, whether it's on a smaller scale, kratom, kava, cannabis, if you want to go in the larger scale, psilocybin, fucking mescaline, all that crawly stuff. It's actually the men, I feel, that needs to experience these states of consciousness more.
Have a harder time with letting go. Think about just the fact that women give birth makes them way more likely to be let go. Because when you're pregnant, this tiger has you, motherfucker.
It's strange. My wife, for example, is similar to me in this way. She's not really huge in getting out in public places and socialize. She definitely could never be the person to go to a bar, neither of us or him.
I don't like it.
And you know what? That's one of the things that I'm glad about, because I'm a very you know, kind of meditate hermit type character. We both, you know, really you know, we've always kind of struggled with that. I think we've gotten better over the years, but you know, to her, you know, thinking about this, you know, she's been so, it comes much easier letting go of things, I really feel like, than how I used to be. You know, I've actually had to put in work, consciously make changes to get out of this cycle of hanging on to everything and never wanting change. I've consciously worked on that when I feel that it came naturally. I'm not saying every woman has this, but
there's all types of different factors, but generally.
Yeah, and I feel that she's not so concerned with, you know, say dying, for example. You know, like she's not killing herself every day, wondering what the hell is after death. And, you know, I feel like most people, to a certain extent, even though they won't talk about it, it's definitely a concern.
Yeah.
But they just, it's been placed under taboo.
Isn't that interesting that death has become a taboo?
Oh, let me just quote one of my fucking favorite men of all time. The great and amazing and the beautiful Alan Watts said in a recent video I've watched of him. Recently I've watched it. Why, death is as natural as the leaves falling off the trees in autumn.
Yeah.
That gentleman can bring absolute tears
he
to
was
your
so
eyes.
with the cosmic giggle.
He was with it. He saw these little things that happen in our life that maybe you are going through.
Yes.
I've recently had a couple of just strange things happen. You know, it at the end of the day, we have to learn not to take these things very seriously. Because this is all part, the spiritual world is truly sending messages to show you this is not where it's at.
Right.
How do we explain these very strange occurrences that seem to happen? Well, the easy thing would do to say, well, you know, he or she, you know, they're a liar. That didn't happen, you know. And I'm sure there's obviously cases that happening.
Right, sure.
But I can just say with my life has been a funny one. His life has probably been a funnier one. And that could be he has gone very deep into the realms of psychedelics. He has actually met with the high gods, the hyperdimensional insects, when I feel that I kind of crumbled on a cannabis experience. But the things that I have learned has truly, first and foremost, came from Kratom. And I want to throw this into the cosmos as well. Fuck all of the politicians who are trying to take away the magical plant of Kratom. This has happened in various states already. Kava, you know, hopefully is safe. And I just want to say we are magically fighting against that.
Yes, we are.
As he mentioned on a previous video, that they are not concerned that, Kratom could be addictive.
Yeah.
They are concerned with your third eye being opened. They are concerned that the thing that you are working for, everything that you're sweating about, things that's keeping you up at night, is actually an illusion. And none of this really matters. But these experiences, love, spending time with the ones that's true, genuine, talking about these things, take away the ego, humbly come forth, talk and present your problems. We all have demons that we're fighting, and it's going to continue to bottle up, and before you know it, you snap and you do something that was never you.
Yep, exactly.
We have to get these emotions out and talk to the ones that we're close to.
Or else it's going to manifest in a gruesome way.
It's the madness, you know, we talk about it being 2025. How, you know, the poor chaps and the poor sapsuckers lived back in ancient times before social media and this and that. And, you know, the fact is,
much less distraction.
You take the gentlemen who would get together in the woods, for example, the Druids, which was referred to men with the oak trees. They tapped into a type of magical mysticism that provided with them with everything they needed to be equipped with to, as he mentioned in another video, really setting their life up for a quest. And
to uncover, you know, the mystery.
They was given keys. Funny that, you know, back then you look at the kava that was done, you had people, you know, having these DMT experiences, psilocybin, all these people were doing these, and these people, it changes you. You're so different from the masses. And that's the goal, is to experience with these. And
you don't want to conform to this half-witted society. You don't want
it's not real, and not only that, okay,
it robs you of all of your genius and your worth.
If it was real, okay, just say for example, then you still get away from it. You know,
it's not good for you.
Marilyn Manson, by the way, somebody we've always loved his music. You know, he talked about, as much as possible, kind of creating his own world to get away. He'll go to his house, wherever it may be, a place of peace, and you can have your sacred altar anywhere. It doesn't have to be a fake run up to the church when everybody's eyes are watching you, and then you get judged for not going up.
That's what I love about practicing kind of solitarily, is that you skip that whole self-consciousness. I better go up to the altar, I'm gonna look bad. You have your own little space, and I encourage anybody that's interested in spirituality or consciousness expansion, having a little space. I have one right here, a little altar that I go to meditate and to do ritual. It's a good place. Like, you need a sacred space that you can ground yourself in and meditate and connect.
Speaking of meditation, I've had a great many things that I've experienced recently that it's been so amazing, man. On one of my days off, I will generally take a day, and I have this tree that I will come and visit, and I refer to as like the holy tree, and the sacred tree, and I have such a connection with this tree, and usually on a kratom ceremony, cannabis, I just can't. I took off my my shoes and my socks, and I was, oh God.
Isn't it amazing?
I said, I feel like Erica Learson off Blair Witch 2. I am an earth child now. Yep. Being connected to nature. You see, you go into these towns and cities, things get fucking boring. You have no curves. You have straight lines of concrete. No fucking trees. You have sweaty men in ties walking up and down. You just have this fucking smell of
exhaust
fucking shit.
Yeah, literal shit.
Listen, garbage. I ask upon any of you, please go to a nearest park and spend some time in the woods, and I swear to change you. If you don't want to do kava or kratom or anything, fine, I just ask that you will really seek to go outside, and you will learn so much. I really
because nothing is more mind-blowing, to me than observing these perfect, complex,
dude,
insects and plants.
I mean this literally with all of my heart.
It's medicine.
It's so medicine. I really mean this. I swear I mean this from the fucking bottom of my heart. I want fucking everybody who watches this or not to live a happy and free 3D world.
Yes.
3D life they can in this world.
This 3D life is beautiful.
I don't want
in a lot of ways.
Look, there's all kinds of people that I do not like. Obviously, we all have people. I don't want anybody though. And I know this sounds like a very Christian thing to say. They often say we pray for our enemies, and that's not what I'm saying at all. It's just that these people who go out and literally take somebody's life, I mean, they're actually doing them a favor. They're freeing them, even though they may not see it as that way. This existence is to learn.
Yep, I really do think that, man. I do too.
I also believe that this existence is to experience mortality.
Yeah. Well, think about
mortality. Mortality?
Okay.
Mortality.
Can I break something down here real quick?
Break it down, my good man. Yeah.
Alan Watts brought this up, and if anybody's never heard this, I hope I can be the first person to tell you this, because this is a really interesting thought experiment.
Yes, sir.
So imagine for a second if you could do anything you wanted. You had 100% omniscience and omnipotence.
Yes, sir.
So you could do anything. You had all power, all knowledge. So what would you do? People usually start out saying, okay, they start fulfilling some of their wishes, like, we'll get a new house, a big new house, and a couple cars, and a nice wife.
Yeah.
And, plenty of food, and plenty of weed, or whatever it is.
Classic of the years.
Obviously. And then you might consider for a little bit, oh, wait, anything. I don't even have to be in this world. So you could say, okay, I want to inject myself into a very adventurous realm where I'm riding on dragons and fighting you know, demons and living this heroic life, you know, and you know, after a while, you might say, yeah, it's pretty fun, but I want to do something else. You know, I want to do something even more exciting, you know. Then you might say, okay, I'm going to inject myself into a dimension, and I'm going to differentiate myself into a million different things. More than that, obviously, but I'm going to differentiate myself into these many, many forms and many creatures. And
yeah,
and I'm also going to
experience all.
Okay, so wait. I'm going to so you might after the adventurous realm, you might get tired of that and say, I'm going to inject myself into a realm where I forget that I can do anything. Think about that. I'm going to forget.
Is that what he said?
Yes, he said.
I wasn't aware of that.
You know, after a while, you might inject yourself into a realm where you forget your godhood. You forget that you can do everything, and just for fun, really. I mean, this could literally be
just for fun.
Just for fun. It literally, you know, I think it works on many levels. I mean, I feel like that this is a teaching.
This
everything is a teaching, but this is also, it's fun, you know. And dude, think about when you wake up from a really bad dream, and then you're just so relieved, you know, when you see your wife beside you. And,
I've done that.
Yeah, it's
recently.
like, I'm so glad that wasn't real. You know, that's very well what this could be. This could be, you know, I really think that
what if the dreams
Yeah.
are preparing us?
Yes, very well could be.
What if that's where bad dreams come from?
Yeah, very well.
Oh my God, I've never thought of that.
Well, let's think about this. We know we have a lot of scientists suspect that DMT is that's what dreams run on.
Quick question.
Yes.
With psychedelics such as psilocybin, how long after your trip does your dreams get much more stranger? Do you quit dreaming? I've always wondered that.
It's kind of hard to say for me, where I've always been an avid cannabis user.
That's right, yeah.
So, you know, cannabis suppresses dreams. I don't remember it. I really don't think that it affected it.
It's been doing that for me recently.
But now if I did mushrooms without smoking cannabis, it's hard to say. But dude, one of the very interesting aspects of the tryptamine experience, you know, whether psilocybin or DMT, as you know, psilocybin is a form of DMT, and it's called 4-phosphorylated NN-DMT, and that 4-phosphorylated group is responsible for it being orally active. You can eat it, whereas DMT you can't. You have to smoke it. So DMT, if you smoke it, it's this, you know, 5 to 7 minute experience, and it's the most intense psychedelic this side of the grave.
Yeah.
And you have it right there in your head, brother.
Right in here.
Yeah. Well, we haven't confirmed that it's in our brains, but we have confirmed that we have DMT in our spinal cords. I've mentioned this before. It would be kind of hard to do that ethically, to test that, but it's pretty fucking obvious that it's produced in the pineal gland of rats. So right there in our third eye, just sitting there chilling, is the most potent psychedelic known to man.
It's waiting.
That's a little interesting to me, brother.
It's waiting for its sex mate to come forth and make one.
And so you can think of your third eye as the lens.
You're right.
As the lens. DMT is the lens of observing this spiritual dimension.
Yeah.
You know,
there's something about opening up your third eye.
It's kind of hitting me right now how
I know
how insane it is, Cameron. The DMT is in our brains. Okay, what I wanted to say real quick before I ramble so too fucking bad.
Yes.
Oh yeah. I remember my maybe not my very first one, but maybe my second or third trip. I was just so like astonished my first trip. I didn't really maybe absorb it as best as I could, but one of my first trips, I remember like, oh my God, this seems so familiar.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I've seen these patterns. You know, I've seen this before. That's a very kind of eerie feeling. It's like, how can
I've had that a couple times today for some reason.
Okay. You know, think about this. What, you know, we you know, a lot of scientists theorize that dreaming is running on DMT. So what if, you know, Terence McKenna said that he and a lot of other people that use DMT had a dream where they were handed a little pipe and they smoked it and had the exact same experience. Just a usual DMT trip. Okay. So if that's the case,
dude,
it's like once you smoke it, you can remember it in your dreams. But before that, me and you might be having DMT trips every night and just not remember it.
Right.
You can only remember dreams when you wake up in REM. So it's very possible.
Wait a minute. I want to talk about a story.
I gotta go pee real quick.
That's very possible because I had a very strange situation happen to me a little over a month ago. Now, I've always had the unfortunate problem of getting that thing to where you're temporarily like paralyzed in your sleep. I remember the first time I had this problem, I was anywhere from 12 to 14. And I remember I thought that some, fucking serial killer was in the room with me, and there's nothing I can do to get up. There's many different theories to what this can be, but there's actually very little research on this subject. But I have had anxiety to the extreme, dreading going to sleep. So I've dealt with this off and on throughout my adult life. So, like I said, not too long ago, I went to sleep as usual. I don't even think I've at this point wasn't doing cannabis every day. And I had a dream, very unsettling. I dreamed, and he was in it as well, that we were in the night sky with all the stars, the fucking planets. It was so real, but there was like still trees up there. But we were like standing. It's like there was an unseen surface we were standing on. And I just, for some reason, told him, I said, dude, I dread death.
Yeah.
And he
put a dream?
He put his hand on my shoulder, looked at me right in the fucking eyes. He said, it's going to be so weird.
Oh.
Boom.
Damn.
I was paralyzed. I saw, and what was happening is those fucking stars were going crazy. Wow. Like just everything was moving. Everything was really bright.
Like when you're on a psychedelic.
And I couldn't fucking wake up. And you know what? It took me, I don't know. When you're in that state, you truthfully don't know how long it is. But if I was to guess, I would say a minute or two. Yeah. Maybe, 45 seconds. It was a long-ass fucking 45 seconds, I'll tell you that much. Anybody who possibly deals with this being paralyzed in your sleep knows how...
Sleep paralysis is no joke. I've never had it chronically, but a couple times.
That could have been an example. Yeah. What if the spiritual world, look, this goes back to being a free thinker. There's nothing dumb you may want to say. There's nothing stupid or too off the wall. So
we're not believing everything that we're saying.
We're constantly throwing out, because that's how, this is part of the game. This is how you get there.
We have to collaborate and bring out as many ideas as we feel is valid.
What if the spiritual world is using this to tap into this DMT that's already, because yes, it was, not quite from like the visuals and the things that McKenna has talked about.
But it was working on DMT.
It was like a part of that. And you know what? I got up from that, finally woke up, and I'll tell you how scared I was, actually. I told my wife, and this is so crazy, that I was in that, early, middle of the night sleep, and I said, can you wake me up every top of the hour? I want to do that again. Obviously, she didn't do it. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about that real quick. It was an insane time, man.
Very interesting.
Yeah. I've had a lot of this problem before.
Yeah.
But Psych Substance had this as well. He has struggled with this. He's also been, like we've talked about, lucid dreaming.
Yes.
Being aware that we are dreaming.
Yeah.
There's people that say that's wrong to be able to do that in Christianity. A lot of Christians think
I'm
that.
Sure that they're.
But you can't help it.
No.
How can you help lucid dreaming?
Yeah, I mean, some people can, as far as I understand, it can be cultivated, to a certain extent, and some people just have it normally.
So some people can try to bring this on.
Some people can through certain practices.
I can sometimes, but other times I can't.
I don't know if I ever have, man.
By the way, I just want to say real quick, I don't think I said this last time. The cough has never hit it this hard before.
I fucking feel you, brother. I'm out there, man.
Oh, it's fucking in the mystical world, man. Like no other. I'm a little like.
I feel that. But DMT, man.
Fuck. I'm so out there, dude. I'm sorry.
You're all good, brother.
Yeah.
DMT to me is, the world that we're locked into right now is a world that runs on, chemistry.
Yeah.
So it would make sense that a chemical would be responsible for allowing our minds to access a nearby dimension.
You know what else, man? This. I forgot what I was gonna say.
You're all good. and all of the critics, of this stuff, DMT, for example. I understand you might not want to go through a 4 to 6 hour mushroom trip, but here's another alternative. We have some DMT. This is what I would say to a skeptic. I would say, you say that, my stories of, insectoid beings and imparting, information about the future and all this wacky stuff that goes on in these experiences, they deny it. The skeptic denies it. Hey, this is a compound that has no risk. It's not toxic. You're not going to be harming your body. It's already inside of your own body. You're just going to be getting a little extra here.
Yeah.
And it lasts about 5 minutes. Well, what's the deal? If you're so skeptical, why don't you give it a try?
Exactly.
It won't last long.
As he often says a lot when we're on this subject, we will happily tell you why people doesn't want to do these plants. They feel that it could shatter what they believe to be reality. Now, I will say with my experience, some people may not see this like this, but I swear, I've been able to extract so much from kratom and kava, and literally that's really altered. I'm obviously not to the extent of these psychedelics, but it's altered so much the way I see all these things on the outside.
Especially when you're, when your mind, when you're...
Is at a certain point.
Even before you was doing kratom, you had
different
an orientation towards the weird, towards the grotesque, or towards the supernatural.
Scary movies and heavy metal.
Yeah, and you had an interest in mysticism and stuff.
Right.
And I think
ghost aliens, that kind of stuff.
And when you took kratom, it seemed
exploded.
It seemed to kind of catapult you into that direction.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing, if you're a fucking, basketball player and you decide to take kratom, who knows? You might just want to play more basketball, you know what I'm saying? Like, you may not, but if you use it with the intention of, I want to use this as a sacrament, as something that facilitates me, connecting with the divine, it'll work better.
I'd like to talk a little bit about, staying on the subject of spiritualism. And again, it's difficult to really say whether or not these results would come forth without the aid of these really holy plants. But we took us a walk a little bit ago, and we was talking about some of these really ancient philosophers. I know I've mentioned in another video. I can never remember his name. Socrates?
Yes.
Socrates?
Yep, Socrates.
And a few others, a painter. All these people, they were condemned satanic, even though they wasn't Satanist, for questioning and going against getting some of the people in the youth to open their minds, as the great Tim Leary often said, and was used for a Beatles song. relax. Is it relax, open your mind, and float downstream?
Turn off your mind, relax, and float down.
Yeah, that's it. There's a electric wizard song that talks about that as well. What does that mean though? This is the thing.
Trust the universe.
Turning off your mind of the fears and the really things that are so-called important here. Right. If we can take some time to shut that off,
just it's tap the brakes a little bit. We don't need to make AI robots that live on human flesh.
This is the thing. This thing that we're concerned with, like you mentioned this. Oh, by the way, we actually like to call them artificial ignorance. Yeah. is probably the best way to go about that, because I can just see, most people
the hellish realities that could possibly come out of it.
We may have a war with these damn things in the future.
That is so unbelievably scary, dude. The fact that
you don't know
AI. Have you seen some of the stuff that fucking DARPA is coming out with?
I have, but I just couldn't turn them off.
Jesus Christ, dude! They have like fucking dogs, robot dogs.
Dude, they're creating a dinosaur right now. Do you see that?
No.
They are making a dinosaur right now, dude.
Dude, DARPA came out with a robot that's painted like playground colors, and it literally lives on organic material.
I'll have to admit,
it could eat you, and that would be its fuel.
We've talked about this before. That's fucked up. We have talked about this a lot.
That was years ago, too.
We feel that we could be more content, happy in this 3D world right now if it was like 1965. Yeah. And we've never, I feel like that, the cliche, obvious, like 12-year-old girl in middle school saying nobody understands me, and I actually we can relate to that though. Yeah. We've people looked at us like fucking weirdos. That's what all the free thinkers was. It's not like we have some type of authority or power.
No. We're normal people.
We just are free thinkers,
and we've broken away from cultural conventions.
Like
whether people think that's good or not, it's what we've done.
It's what we've done. We're actually would be very hated.
Yeah.
If we actually had a popular channel.
Yeah, we probably get a lot of criticism.
Oh, guaranteed it. And especially talking about these plants. Oh, right. God, that's the worst thing in the whole world, man.
Drug addicts.
Yeah, that's the classic. We talked about this. It's all too much. It really and truly is just all too much to try to continue with. We know the difference of good and bad. Mm-hmm. We really do, and we see these so-called laws that are enforced. We see everything's wrong. Yeah. Everything is dead wrong about this.
Things that our authority figures are doing, whether it be police officers or people making decisions.
Where I'm fucking on Kava right now, we are. I can't get it through my mind that we can't drive down the road to the gas station and get Kava.
I know.
That's like on my mind right now.
And remember,
I've never had so much empathy.
Yeah.
I couldn't
compare this to
swallow the fly right now.
Compare this to your first alcohol experience.
Oh, good God! I had nothing but darkness.
Yeah, I remember. I was with you.
He was with me. My first alcohol experience was a dark one, and I will humbly come forth to state the truth. Personally, and him as well, I really detest alcohol, and I really have no reason to ever drink alcohol again, and do not plan to, because of the sacred plant of kava. Yeah. That needs to be stressed again and again. The sacred plant of kava, to say that it's superior to alcohol, and I know I'm rambling, is such an understatement. I took it. I felt like bipolar. I cried, laughed, and then cried some more, and just felt miserable. I felt dirty. I felt dumb. That's the big one. Do you want to feel dumb?
It does make you feel
I'm
dumb.
sorry, but that's what it does. You're
Let me
choosing.
see your tits.
Yeah. Do you want to feel dumb, or do you want to take a sacred plant to reach into the spiritual realms, and you will continuously bring something back with you? It's really. I actually hate this saying, but it's a no-brainer. Even though I really do hate that saying. That it really is.
It is a no-brainer, dude. I mean, how could you compare the two and say, "Oh, I'm gonna choose alcohol"?
You know what, man? You know, if we could be remembered somehow, somebody actually remember us generations down, we would like to be the gentleman known for getting kratom and kava 100%, well, and psychedelics too, completely fucking legal with no problems. It's just as accepted as alcohol. That would be fucking dope.
Because it's so ridiculous.
Oh, and you know what?
And dude, we already have laws in place for bad behavior.
It's just a friendly plant that grows.
Now, you know, I think the best way to go about the drug problem is this. All plants are not illegal. You can't make nature illegal. So all plants are legal. If the opiate addict wants to grow his poppy plant, he can do that. You know, you want some more?
Yeah,
got you, brother. You know, if the cokehead wants his cocaine, he can grow
like a little less.
Got you, brother.
Yeah. Exactly.
He can grow some coca.
Yeah, you know, the thing about it is, and we watched one of these that came out like maybe 10, 12 years ago. I'm probably completely wrong on that. But yeah, gentleman by the name Joe Rogan, along with his good friend Duncan Trussell.
Yes, love him.
They was on this very topic, and they were talking about these so-called justice authority, these cops, aka the huge, how shall we say it? Puppets.
Yeah, puppets for the state.
Puppets for the state. They're doing the law, you know.
Revenue collectors.
Okay, fuck this. You know, I'm getting fucking sick and tired of this garbage. He was just telling me not too long ago that somebody fucking got like 10 years in prison.
10.
Okay.
I have
10 years in prison for having kratom.
Yep.
A 250?
It was
gram.
Yep, they had a 250 gram bag of kratom, which is a standard.
Wrap your motherfucking mind around that. And you know what I say?
But yet you can go to the liquor store and just blow your brains out with liquor.
You don't understand how fucking... I've never been this confused. This is hitting me more than ever.
Dude, I mean, it disturbed me so much, man. And the whole kratom community is very, very upset about this.
You know what? If you read some of the talks...
We're going to have to do some kind of black market.
Oh,
I mean, maybe I shouldn't be saying this on the internet.
No, I know, but hey, fuck it.
That's what's going to happen is
it's the truth.
Going to be a black. I mean, dude. But to see, this is the thing. If we was taking black market kratom, that could have fucking fentanyl.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't know what's fucking in that.
You know, and look,
we would have to buy a fentanyl tester and test everyone.
The way that media is, first of all, it seems that they obviously do not know anything about the plant. I don't want to
take fucking hydrocodone. That's not why I take.
They are calling this sacred plant, fucking sacred plant. Oh my God, we can't stress it enough. Of kratom, as we call it, kratom, and they're calling it gas station heroin.
So sensational, you know.
I can't. At this point, it's just it's funny, you know, when you stand back and you look at the fucking pigs, and the worthless politicians.
That cop that sent that fucking woman to jail, he felt so good. That fucking Alabama cop.
I'll tell you about that little bitch, that little fucking I'll tell you all about him. He's about as worthless as tits on a hog. No, seriously though. It's that is maximum stupidity. You know what? There's no way you could fucking pay me enough to be a cop just because it's everything
Just
against what
following
I
orders,
believe.
man. Just
Yeah.
following orders, man.
Everything against what I believe. And you know what? It's sad that I guess it's so fucked up. I mean, if you was in a confrontation with a cop and they see kratom sitting beside of you, would they be like, "Oh, I need to somehow test this and make sure"? Because if that's the case, oh my God, this has gone too far, and we need to. Everybody in the kratom community,
so we can buy.
We need to do our part. Yeah.
We can buy guns and just blow our brains out, but nobody bats an eye. But if somebody uses kratom safely for 20 years, they want to take it away.
We gotta fucking do our part.
Obviously,
we gotta stand up.
Obviously, this is the pharmaceutical companies.
I know.
You know, Cameron, there's people out there that's been on antidepressants, anti-anxiety medications, and they switched to cannabis or they switched to kratom. They didn't need their pills anymore. You know, this took care of that for them. And, you know, the pharmaceutical companies, they pay off politicians.
I just read about one of those guys.
Illegal. Yeah.
I read a guy who was 27. They cut his insurance. He was on these pharmaceutical drugs.
Yeah.
Got to finding out he was putting out, oh, God, I'm starting to take kratom, and now I feel better than I ever have.
Mm-hmm.
Dude. That made them so wrought up. They're talking about this guy. They said what he is taking, their exact words, was unsafe and ineffective.
It's very effective. And it's very safe. You see, I agree with McKenna. He says, you know, to be as safe as possible, you want to take substances that have a long history of use.
Exactly.
You know, that makes the most sense. If people have been using kratom for fucking thousands of years, it's safe bet that that's probably a pretty safe substance, or they wouldn't be taking it anymore.
We will let you decide.
You know, we're not advocating any fucking chemical that flies out the goddamn laboratory. No. We're saying if you're gonna you know use this in this way, use plants that have millennia of human use.
You know, it's funny. The people, I think of this a lot. People are getting like really psyched up about some of these like artists this day and time. You know, we pretty much have a little regulation on how we operate our lives. So 9 times out of 10, we're not too interested in modern artists. There's a couple that we can resonate with. Especially with things such as music. And it's funny because a lot of the people we really look up to were at the very least cannabis users.
Yes.
Actually, most of them, all of them, actually all
of them are cannabis users. But
look at like the artists now, just say in the fucking pop or whatever, hip hop, we just listen to rock and metal, so we don't know too much about it, but we do know that what we've heard,
glorification of pop. Of pharmaceutical.
I'm just gonna go and say this. Can I tell you a guy who I just
abuse?
Fucking hate his lyrics, man. I don't know much about the guy, but well, now I can't remember. He was on a Psych Substance video. He had like tattoos all over him.
Lil Peep?
Fuck yeah.
Or Post Malone?
Nope. The other guy. Lil Peep. The guy passed away.
Yeah.
You know what, man? His lyrics. There's a guy that I know who's obsessed with this guy, and man, he's literally glorifying like
prescription drug abuse.
Yeah, and wanting to like fucking...
his videos will have, fucking bottles of Oxycontin everywhere, scattered everywhere. He's literally glorifying prescription drug use. But nobody bats an eye with that.
I'm in a really like psyched up mood right now anyway, so yeah, the true music, I really, I'm telling you, it's something to stuff like Electric Wizard. Talking about magic, alchemy, the spiritual, death, all these things that's horrible.
See, the difference
the true drugs.
Little Peep and Electric Wizard is that Electric Wizard has this depth to them. Exactly. They have a depth to them, and they're pot users. They're no stranger to doom.
Oh no.
Yeah.
That's the thing, man. You know what? I absolutely detested. that's an overstatement. I had amazing parts to it, but for the most part, I said I'm never going to do an edible experience again. I'm going to tell you, man, you not only...
Dude, even after that horrible experience, you still went back and did
Crazy.
something, man.
I got really out
respect
there
it, man.
last night.
Yeah, you did.
You know what, man? You know, this is the thing. If you keep going back, you will overcome. It's start to overcome. It's it's still a work in progress, but literally, though, you know what people say, you face your fears. That's what you're doing,
dude. When you smoke cannabis, you do. I feel like kratom, it can, it's really good to introspect on kratom, but kratom, I feel like is even better about like grabbing things out in hyperspace and bringing it back.
Oh God, it's
and looking at it and analyzing it very intently, and whether you're reading or whatever.
Oh,
cannabis is like, facing your fears, and once you get past that facing your fears phase, cannabis can be quite nice.
I'll be fucking on kratom down at the bookstore, passionately reading like the other day about these philosophers, and I was just like, whoa, I think I look kind of tense right now. These I feel that it's something that can't be stressed enough. How much you can learn, and at this very moment we're being transformed in a way that we just can't. And by the way, this is not us. We are not making positive changes on ourselves. We are simply inviting and letting these plants, move us in these ways. Often, look, sometimes we will just rant, write things, essays. And I had one recently. I read it to you. It was like a page. And I remember my wife said, "Whoa, I didn't think you could write like that." I remember she made a joke like, "You must think you're a scientist," using all those big words there. And most people be like, "Oh yeah, I am pretty good." But I mean, the truth is, no, it wasn't me, because I wouldn't have done that if it wouldn't have been for the kratom.
Exactly.
It's
the alchemy, man. And I feel like some of the not so good artists, they lack that alchemy. So we gotta find our allies. Find the methods that work for us. Find the plants that work for us. If people are interested in this, do a bit of exploring and research. And always test, anything you take.
Yeah, and the biggest thing of all, the majority, whatever media says, whatever culture says, what about the fucking name of our YouTube channel? Culture is not your friend. You know what? We are doing you people some service by saying that right off the bat. Accepting that, getting that, that could mean a lot of things. Well, is it as sinister as culture plotting against you? To an extent, it really is. As I mentioned, why is it that right now I'm having a conversation, I'm able to think very deeply, but I am on a decent amount of kava? Strange, because if I was to have done this much alcohol, I would be laying in the fucking bed crying. But strangely enough, people would look at kava as a more harmful drug, along with kratom. So that's one example of culture not being your friend. Capitalism, the higher power, as they like to, we really don't give a fuck at all about who is president, what side of politics. We tend to always talk amongst ourselves. Fuck politics. The guy we have in right now, absolute piece of trash. I can't help but every time, well, not every time, but a good portion of my times being on cannabis. You know, cannabis does something so different. It really does. I just can't help but think, fuck, I need the fucking president of the United States. You know, why don't he pop him some cannabis edibles and get the fuck out of his illusions? Put the goddamn Big Mac down,
Yeah.
fucking bitch.
I know.
You know what? Yeah, I kind of sound kind of obnoxious right now. It's just that, you know, it's the truth. We want to see, you know, the world.
Change.
We want to see this country change for the better. We want to get out of this illusion. These politics who promise things to you, they don't give a fuck about you. They simply want your vote so they can have authority and they can do shady deals.
Have a nice mansion, on the beach somewhere.
You know, speaking of mansions, one could see a great many of mansions, but in structure which our 3D imaginations couldn't bring forth. There's a whole world, multiple universes to be unlocked.
I mean, dude, we really don't know how deep this thing goes, dude. I mean, this universe could be... this universe could be a fucking, septic tank from another universe.
It's very possible that the topic of reincarnation, it seems that people don't really touch on. Well, do we reincarnate back into the same world? Do we come from another world? Do we
even incarnate into the same universe?
Do we even incarnate in this type of looking flesh?
Yeah.
You know, hell, I wouldn't put it past anything if the so-called three-eyed green alien is something we came from. It doesn't make a difference, honestly.
Imagine this, dude. Imagine if you were, pre-birth, and you and a couple of your spirit buddies are looking at all the options, we can go here. What about that one? What's that one? That one's Earth. It looks like a challenge. Whoa, you forget that you're God? Holy shit. But there's, certain plants that will connect you to God.
I'm gonna go that way.
I think about that a lot. I wonder if, we really don't know. We very well might have, selected this life that we're in right now. I feel like a lot of people feel, hopeless and really sad about life in general, and the fact that nothing lasts, and everything we know and we love is dissolving in our fingers. But this is a hard truth that we need to face. Nothing lasts. Nothing. Not yourself or the people that you love or your trips. Nothing lasts. And this is a cause for rejoicing, and it's a cause for grieving. That's one thing that the Buddhists had pinned early on, was this idea that nothing lasts, But this should aid us in not being so attached, as long as we're living in this temporary, illusory dimension. Attachment to it is just going to cause suffering. The Buddha has his four noble truths. I honestly probably couldn't memorize all of them, although I have them in a book over there. But I'm pretty sure the first noble truth of the Buddha is that life is suffering, and then I think the second one is suffering is caused by attachment, and it's something like that. But very interesting. The idea that if you can just be here and do and just I love how Ram Dass talks about it. He says, like, he practiced what he called bhakti yoga,
Mm-hmm.
And this is devotional yoga. So he was devoted to, uh, you know, uh, like the Hare Krishnas, for example. They practice a type of bhakti yoga, and it's like, they have so much fun serving Krishna and like keeping that duality,
Yeah.
and having this devotion to Krishna, and when they go out into the world, they treat everyone like it's Krishna, and I think
You know what? There's so many different ways you can go about this, and like you mentioned with the meditation.
Mm.
I found a very unique way to do meditation, very unorthodox compared to what a lot of people actually.
There's traditional ways of doing it, and there's, you might
It's
find your own methods that work too.
and the same thing goes with chants,
Yes.
well-established ones.
Yeah.
You could add some things in them as well, but these traditional chants, though, when it comes to chants, there's actually a power behind it. Like a pre-made power. Like the high gods brought forth.
It always interested me, man. I've messed around a little bit with sigils. And
yeah, you were telling me about this.
I've had effectiveness with the one that I did, a few years back.
Mm-hmm.
And a sigil is very interesting. I've always been fascinated by the idea that you could do something to, like, if you do something a certain way, then it'll open up a fucking portal.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
Or you might do it.
I've recently thought of that.
This might sound a little silly, but just
bear with us.
Yeah. Imagine if you could do like some hand signal.
Yeah.
And just the truth pops out in front of you.
Yes.
Like.
Oh my God, dude! It's.
I wonder, dude. We talk about
the
magic.
Possibilities are endless.
We talk about magic in this very almost vague way.
Yeah.
And you can do it like this.
It's called magic for a reason, damn it.
Yeah. You can use whatever symbol set you want, but perhaps there is an actual like bedrock. Like there is an actual or fucking sure thing that you can do. Maybe the ancients knew about it, and
it's hard to say how much has actually been lost over time.
Oh, do you know about the burning of the Library of Alexandria?
No.
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about it, but I've heard about it. The Library of Alexandria had all kinds of records from I'm pretty sure pre-Mesopotamia. Maybe it's like I'm pretty sure, maybe not pre-Mesopotamia, but I think it might have been in Greece. We'll do some research on it later, but the Library of Alexandria, and that burned down. And we had so much shit in there, dude.
Weird.
So much.
Didn't some of Terence McKenna's work mystically burn down?
It did.
Funny.
It did.
That's not the mystical realm. That's something that.
Yeah, man. There's this funny.
That's fucking weird.
In the McKenna video that you like and I love too. Mm-hmm. It's when he's addressing the Carl Jung Society, and it's a video. You can actually see the video.
Oh, cool! I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I watched that during a very dark time and had revelations.
Yes,
that got me lifted right back up.
Good man. He says something in that video that people get so wrong. He says something like,
"Oh, people misinterpret it."
Okay, he's talking about how the mushroom picked him. He said when he had those mushroom experiences in La Chorrera, he said that the mushroom, the entity, wrapped its arm around him and said, "I choose you." And he said, "Why? Why do you choose me?" You know what the mushroom said to McKenna? Because you don't believe in anything. That's what it said to him in La Chorrera, the fucking Amazon.
Yeah.
And but McKenna says he's talking about this, and I think he was reading questions off, and I have to say this to defend him because a lot of people make a big deal out of this. And he says something about he's talking about MK Ultra,
Mm-hmm.
He talked about the CIA and how they used,
fuck
But
that
then
shit,
very next thing he says, he's talking about how he was inducted, and
he was what?
he was inducted. He was like taken under somebody's wing. But he's talking about the mushroom.
I see.
But people think that he was talking about the CIA.
Oh, I see.
And people say like that's evidence that McKenna was CIA.
That's
total hogwash.
I know. Now, granted,
I've watched that a million times, and it's obvious that he's talking about the mushroom.
I do want to say I'm glad you brought that up. People such as McKenna and Ram Dass are as true as you can get. You can't get any more true.
Ram Dass, I love him so
I'm gonna be
much.
honest with you. A lot of people now, I wouldn't be surprised if they was part of some kind of mind control scheme.
Dude, this is a scary thing to think about. I love listening to Bill Hicks, the comedian. I love that bit he
Is he
does.
the 1776 guy? He's like drinking alcohol and lifting weights and saying, 1776.
I don't think
He talks
so.
like that, you know?
No, I don't
Who's
think
that guy?
so.
The guy talks
Is he
like
a comedian?
he talks like, yeah, I'm gonna go down here to McDonald's, get me a double Big Mac and some fries. The guy like talks like Jerry.
Wait, are you talking about the alcoholic guy?
Actually, I think he knows something, or at least claims to have known something about Bohemian Grove.
Alex Jones?
Yeah.
That guy is funny.
Yeah.
Not that guy.
Okay.
Bill. Oh, but that's so funny you say that. They're connected. Let me tell you why. Not to get on too big of a tangent here, but I have a purpose of this.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Hicks. He was this brilliant comedian back in the day. Joe Rogan was talking about it on one of his old podcasts, and it was really cool. He said that Joe Rogan went to see Bill Hicks a couple of times in a row because he was a great
cool.
comedian.
Before he really got big, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is in the 90s. And Bill Hicks, he said that he was performing at this, like, kind of in front of this fucking just monkey crowd, dude. Like, Joe Rogan said that the first act, like, that went on before him, was, like, just so stupid. It was, like, Mickey Mouse smoking a joint. Like, that type of, like, just monkey comedy, dude. And then here comes Bill Hicks, and he's super intellectual.
Yeah.
And those people didn't like him at all. Joe Rogan said that he would bomb in the most, like...
Did I cry to almost? Or?
No, but he would bomb in front of this monkey crowd, that didn't like his intellectual style.
Yeah.
And he would do it in the most, like, he literally did not give a fuck that people were leaving by the hundreds, dude. And
by the hundreds.
Yeah. And Rogan said that he did this bit where Satan fucks this celebrity in the ass, and then he's like he's acting like he's taking a shit, and he's like
something you would do
for like 2 minutes straight. And 2 minutes is a long time to be making a shit noise.
That's fucking too good.
And he said that all these people started leaving, and Rogan said that Bill Hicks said, yeah, that generally clears out the room. Like, he wasn't even phased, bro.
Fuck yeah.
But but people say that Bill Hicks was CIA.
You know what, man?
But that's very scary. This is what we really need to be careful about. Anybody, any leader that rises up and claims to,
I don't know,
have some type of special knowledge.
I'm gonna be honest with you.
Beware.
I've liked the things I've seen him in, but I don't fully trust him.
I don't fully trust him either.
Only because I would rather be a bit skeptical on these people who's fucking.
We don't know these people. And,
why hasn't he got kicked out of the country?
He died very young.
He's claiming he's always gonna for 20 years. I'm gonna get kicked out.
Mm-hmm.
Never happened.
But think about it. So imagine if. Just entertain the idea that he was what's called opposed opposition, or a controlled opposition. Think about this. Imagine, and it makes sense. So the government will send out somebody that seems like a counterculture person,
just to throw off the masses.
Just to throw off and lead them in the wrong direction. That's scary, isn't it?
Yeah, that's we don't know. That's why, as you mentioned earlier, we can't be cautious enough in the information we gather.
This is what McKenna says, and I like to live by this. He says, Excuse me. It's that damn carbonated water. But McKenna says this. And this is even more relevant now with AI and stuff.
By the way, is there any way to check the battery real quick?
Let me see here.
I'm just curious.